Episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are continuing the Idaho 4 killings. We're continuing the story because we have some breaking news, something that was just confirmed very shortly ago by Brian Entin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Entin of NewsNation now. He just broke something big that I think is big. And so I'm going to dive into what we know. And we're going to talk about how this kind of relates to what the dad was sharing about how he sounded pretty angry in his interview. And we're going to talk about what he was talking about in that. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Why don't we? NewsNation's Brian Entin confirmed today that University of Idaho stabbing victim Kaylee Goncalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than the other three victims. And according to Brian, her injuries were so much more brutal than her best friend, Madison Mogen, which may end up being a very important piece of evidence that they have come across because this may determine who the target was. Because they're still trying to find who were they targeting in this brutal stabbing. Now, we're going on 3 weeks ago today that this unimaginable happened in Moscow, Idaho, when 4 university students were brutally murdered. And you can see here Maddie and Kaylee Goncalves, 2 best friends who grew up together, have been to so many different things through and through together. They truly were best friends, as close as sisters could be. And so these 2, they were sleeping in the same bed when they were killed. You see, the 2 were in an upstairs apartment and in an upstairs room in this house. So you got the 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and 1st floor. And on the 3rd floor, you have the 2 murdered victims, Kaylee and Madison. They actually slept in different rooms, but that night they were sleeping in the same bed. And so they were upstairs in the room in the house. So the killer had to specifically go upstairs to go get them. But Kaylee had more stabbings. Kaylee was more brutally injured than Maddie or Xana or Ethan. And so Goncalves' parents are saying that the 2 victims were killed on November 13th. They're saying that it doesn't match. And we'll dive into that a little bit further here. But can't believe I just said Former CIA and FBI agent Tracy Walder discussed the possibilities the killings were a targeted attack during an appearance on NewsNation's Prime. And she says that some of the ways that we can know that this is a targeted attack is in the manner in which some of these victims were killed. And I want to be sensitive, obviously, to these parents and to their friends and family. But what you might see in a situation like this is sort of a gross overkill of one victim versus the others who may be simply just gotten in the way. And I believe that that's what her father is referring to. And so the father and family of Goncalves also questioned if police were too quick to clear some of the people connected to the case. And so that is always a possibility. A lot of people are believing that maybe they did jump the gun in clearing the ex-boyfriend and clearing a current boyfriend of Madison's. And so there are a lot of very skeptical people in this particular story because they're like, wait a second, how could we not have any type of leads or person of interest by now? Well, you know what? That's a fair statement, but this is they have to keep a lot hush hush. But Stephen Goncalves, the father of Kaylee, he's pretty upset. He is really upset, and he has shared this multiple times, actually. And so Stephen, you know, he's like, my daughter died. I paid so much for her to go to school only to come back in a box. He is angry. And he said that he believes either his daughter or her best friend was targeted in the violent attack, despite cops insisting they are unsure who was the intended victim. Now, Stephen Gonzalez, who is, again, the father of the 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves, he said that he thought it was obvious that either his daughter or Madison Mogen was targeted in the attack because they were sleeping in the same bed on the top floor of the house, well out of the way of the killer's entry point, a floor below. And I don't know if you've seen this story. I'm sure a lot of us are following these stories so close, but they actually went back into the house to get what they came out with, more bags of evidence. So they went back to do more analysis of the first floor. That's where Ethan, or should I say the second floor, that's where Ethan and Zaina were stabbed. Now, again, we don't really know who was stabbed first. That part has not come out yet. I don't know if they should be able to tell. I don't know. They're the experts. I just like to act like I'm a detective. And so he said that he thought it was pretty obvious that these two girls were, one of them were targeted in this attack. He's really angry because these comments come days after Moscow police retracted a previous statement made by detectives who said that they were certain that one or two residents in the house were targeted. Police clarified that they are unsure whether the home itself was targeted or if any of the victims were targeted. So we don't really know that for sure either at this particular time. And so, but why did they retract their statement? And from my understanding, then they went back and said, yep, it does look like someone was targeted. So that's why the dad is upset. These families, they're upset. They want answers. They don't want to ruin the case by any means, but they feel like they should be knowing more. They should be a little bit ahead of this pack, should I say. And so, speaking to Fox and Friends, Goncalves, Stephen Goncalves, he explained that the room where his daughter and her friend were sleeping was out of the way of the killer's entry point, but he chose to go up there when he didn't have to. Kaylee, Madison, their roommate Zaina, and her boyfriend Ethan, they were all stabbed to death in this house on November 13th, likely while they were sleeping. Now, Kaylee and Maddie were sleeping on the third floor, and Zaina and Ethan were on the second floor. And cops said the killer entered the house through a sliding glass door on the second floor, which was level with the backyard. Now, in the first floor were two roommates. They were unharmed and allegedly unaware that the attack even occurred. They were sleeping on the first floor. And so, speaking to Fox and Friends, Goncalves said that it took little more than basic logic to understand that his daughter and her friend might have been targeted. He said, I'm not a professional, so I want to specify that. But they've said the entry point was the slider or the window. It was the middle floor. So to me, it doesn't have to go upstairs, he said. His entry and exit are available without having to go upstairs or downstairs. That's what he said. So then you throw in the fact that Kaylee was brutally stabbed worse than the other three. He sounds like he's on the right track. He sounds like he is literally on the right track. Yeah, it sounds like that is logical, doesn't it? He says, so I'm just putting the dots together. As far as the investigators, they're very tight-lipped and they're keeping everything close to their vest. And I understand that. And I'm probably not the right person to share all these things with. He said, so I'm just trusting that their case is super tight and they don't really need to reach out to the community. And all the evidence is right there in that home. And so that's where it's like, okay, I mean, he is making some really great points. It's probably a fair thing to assume if you ask me in that particular case. And I mean, let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think about this? Do you think that Kaylee is the target? I've seen other true crime creators say that Zaina was the target. I only looked at the title. I can't say that I actually watched the story and why they thought that, because I'm very leery about all the different types of content that come out without sources. People want to keep the story in front of their channel. I get it. You get more views that way. You make more money that way. I get it. I'm not trying to spin every little sentence into a topic. So for me, like, I want to know what you think. Do you think that someone else is the target here? Because I'm going by what Brian Entin just reported, and I'm going by what Stephen Goncalves has shared. That leads me to believe, like, why would she have the worst injuries if someone wasn't so angry with her? Again, we don't know why. This is still a developing story, right? And so, just like you, we all want to know. That's my thought process on this matter. So you're probably like me, like you want to know as well. And so that's what we're trying to figure out as well. But cops have said some of the victims had defensive wounds, but it remains unclear who or how many. Goncalves said on Saturday, just yesterday, December 3rd, that Kaylee and Maddie appear to have died in different ways. He says, I'll cut to the chase. Their means of death don't match. He has said that Kaylee and Mogen were sleeping in the same bed when the attack occurred. Now, I'll be completely honest with you. I found out about that because of him sharing that. Otherwise, I didn't know that they were in the same bed together when they were killed. So that's, he's helping bring some things to light that the cops are not shared. And so them being in the same bed together also leads me to believe maybe that's why the other one, Maddie, was killed, but the target was Kaylee. But then again, why kill the other two? Now, theory alert. Speculation alert. Playing detective alert. The thought process for me at this time is that the target was upstairs. And I'm guessing they were the first ones to get it. And then Zaina and Ethan being right below in the bottom floor. I don't know if it's directly under that room at this time as I say that. I'm thinking maybe they heard something of the two going on up there, got scared or got a little like, okay, red flag, something seems weird. And maybe they had the defensive wounds on them because they weren't completely asleep. That's just my theory at this time. If I stand corrected, I will definitely be coming back to talk about that in a future episode. And so he continues that their points of damage don't match. I'm just going to say it. It wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I sent my daughter to college. She came back in a box, and I can speak on that. Asked by Fox and Friends about those comments and whether he had any thoughts about if his daughter or Madison was the target based on their wounds, Goncalves said cops had asked him not to specify. I asked for permission to do just that, and they said no. I probably overdisclosed information that they wish I wouldn't have said, but the story's going cold. And to me, that is one of my fears, that this story goes cold. We do not need it to go cold. 3 weeks later, no person of interest has been mentioned. Generally, you'll get a person of interest if they're trying to find somebody. No suspects have been named, nothing. Tomorrow could be a new day. Tomorrow could be a new day and some breaking things would come out, right? So we only wait to find out more when it comes to the deaths of these four beautiful people. And so he continues, there's less people coming to Moscow. I'm not going to go to sleep in my bed knowing that I could get up and I could go to town and I could do something. And I'm not going to go away. I hate to be a pain, but as a father, I just can't even sleep thinking that I could be doing something. Now, on Wednesday night of last week, detectives revealed that they were not sure if the slain University of Idaho students were targeted by the killer, contradicting Chief James Fry, who previously stated that they were the target. But again, we still don't know. That's what he said then, kind of changed it, and then may have changed it back. He says, we believe they're targeted because we take a totality of all the circumstances we are looking at. And that's what he told reporters on November 20th, a week after the murders. And the statements were recently echoed by Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson. And I shared with you a few days ago how they filed a correction that detectives do not currently know if the residents or any occupants were specifically targeted, but continue to investigate. So that's where it gets a little like, okay, but here we are finding out that it does not match. And again, this is according to the dad. He's saying things are not matching up with what they are telling us. You know what? That is a fair statement. And I kind of talked on this a little earlier, but did they kind of they rule out certain people very fast? Christy Goncalves, the mother of, as the one we've been talking about, Kaylee Goncalves, pictured right here, she said police investigating the gruesome crime cleared certain individuals very fast. And she says, I just feel like there have been a couple of individuals that were cleared very fast that maybe should not have been. She added that she does not know anything about those individuals, but she thinks police may have cleared them too soon into their investigation. It was unclear if the Goncalves family was referring to anyone in particular, but relatives did say they're standing by Kaylee's former boyfriend, Jack. And she says, I just know they were people that definitely should have been looked at. Her husband and Kaylee's father, Stephen Goncalves, they told NewsNation in the same interview he doesn't know what would prevent authorities from sharing someone's alibi. That's a great comment. I mean, they definitely get alibis. They're saying they want everyone. They want to know everyone's alibis. You see, detectives with the Moscow Police Department, which is handling the investigation into the murders with help from local and federal authorities, do not believe the following are involved in this crime at this time. They've ruled out the victims' two surviving roommates who lived on the first floor of the house where the attack occurred. A man seen in video footage from a food truck Goncalves and Mogen ordered from early on the morning, November 13th. A private party who drove the two young women home around 1:45 a.m. A man Goncalves and Mogen called multiple times in the early morning hours of November 13th, any individual at the house when 911 was called the next morning at 11:58 a.m. and a sixth tenant at the house who moved out earlier in the year. And that's why they're wondering, is it someone there that she is talking about? That's a great question. Now, former New York City Police Department Detective Sergeant Joe Giacalone, not sure how to pronounce that, he says, just because the police say something doesn't necessarily make it true. So sometimes if you have somebody that you suspect or you don't have enough information or evidence, you can just say everyone's cleared. That doesn't mean that police can't change their mind and turn around and arrest somebody, So in his mind, so why release the list of individuals whom detectives do not believe are involved in the crime? And he continues to say that this quadruple murder might be one of the biggest cases he's seen on social media. And that's where a lot of these rumors start going around and people start sharing false information. I'm speaking now, not the detective or sergeant, but those are key things. I mean, we know that Kaylee and Maddie were so close. What we don't know is, was it cold that night? We know that snow has been in the area, so maybe they were sleeping in the same bed because they were cold. But, best friends, normally females, they do sleep in the same bed. It's no big deal for them, right? There's no machoism involved in that. So that's really not out of the ordinary by any means. So we just want to know who did this, and we want to know why isn't this solved by now? 4 people brutally murdered. Blood all over the place. Defensive wounds, which generally mean the person using the knife also might have some wounds on them. He had to have blood on him because he tracked blood through the home. This is not like he stabbed someone and there's no blood on the knife, right? So there's gotta be something. What is going on? Is the FBI involved? They said federal authorities, but is the FBI involved? Or is it just the local police and law enforcement just trying to play hero? That's a good question on its own. We want to know what happened to these poor kids. And truth is, this cannot go cold. So I would like to know. Thank you, Brazilian girl. I thought I'd been pronouncing it Goncalves. Not too sure what you heard, but okay. But I appreciate it. And at the end of the day, we need justice for these young ones. That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. I want justice. I do care about pronouncing their names right. So Goncalves, I don't know how else to pronounce that. I don't know. So if I'm wrong, I'm going to find out. That's the first time someone's corrected me on saying the last name wrong. But we'll see. I don't know what she heard. At the end of the day, this is not about me, my friends. This is not about me at all. So if you have any information, you are urged to contact Moscow Police at 208-883-7180 or their tip line at ci.moscow.id.us. Please, please, please. If you are a person of prayer, please pray for this family. Please pray for these kids. I don't care. Pray to a higher power in your world. This needs to get solved. This cannot go cold. And I'm going to believe these families are going to stay on top of this till this thing is solved. And according to law enforcement, they have said multiple times, this will not get cold. We will solve this. Well, guess what? Let's see it. Let's see it. This needs to get solved. 3 weeks in, let's get out of this and go find this perp. And only the right perp, please. We don't want anyone just getting arrested to get arrested so that you can play local politics hero and get elected or whatever. I'm not a fan of politics. I'm not going to play like I am. But we need the right person behind bars, and we need justice for these kids. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez, and at the end of the day, I just want to be another voice for these victims. I want to keep this story in front of you, my friends, because we cannot let this die out. We cannot. If these are the type of stories that you like to follow, because at the end of the day, I want to keep you aware. I want to keep you alert. I want you to know what could go possibly wrong around you in the world we live in. Because truth is, this is an evil world we live in. And we as humans have to be cognizant of that and careful. In New York City, one man got hit just walking along with a bat over his head. We have to be careful. So the more alert we can be, granted, something bad can still happen, but we gotta try to be alert. So if this is the type of content you like to follow, please hit that subscribe button. And if you got some value from this video, hit that like button. And if you hit that notification bell, you will get notified whenever I upload any content or I go live, which is what I mostly do anymore, because these stories need to stay in front, and this cannot die out, my friends. Hey, until next time, please be careful, be safe out there. My friends, I care for you, I love you, I want you to be safe. Have a great day, night, peace. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.